Hello everybody, welcome to the I Am IT Geek YouTube channel. My name is Shabaz, and as ever I'm the IT Geek. Welcome to what is the final episode of Module 1. So we are a quarter, I think there's 4 modules, I think we are a quarter of the way through. So this is week 1, Friday today, so this is week 1. And you know, we've released a lot of content this week. This is a 10th episode, including our intro, so thank you very much for keeping with us. Before I do get started on anything else, I'm not going to make the same mistake I made last episode. I'm going to introduce Dwayne. Hello, Dwayne. How are you?
Hey, Shabaz. I'm doing well.
Good, good.
Hi, everybody.
For those that don't know, Dwayne is a Microsoft MVP, and we've been collaborating on this series. Personally, and I don't know about you, Dwayne, it's been a blast. Honestly, I'm having so much fun collaborating with you on this.
Oh yeah, a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. Thanks for appreciate you. Appreciate you having me join you.
No, I appreciate your insights. And again, for those who don't know, Dwayne actually wrote a book on the SC300 exam prep, released earlier this year. The link is in the description, so do buy that. So I can't really ask for a better partner in this series than the person who wrote the book on it. So thank you, Dwayne, for taking that time out.
And the gentleman that kept me honest and made sure that I didn't miss anything technically.
There was not a lot for me to pick up on, I'll be honest. You had everything covered. So yeah, we are on the final episode of this module. This module is the last part of the 4 episodes we've done around hybrid identity. So we are going to be wrapping up that topic in module 1. So let's get cracking, as they say. So yeah, again, as by now, I'm sure you know who me and Dwayne are. What we'll do is for module 2, first few episodes, I will do our reintroductions, just so you know, just you can recap. After 10 episodes, you might have forgotten, so we'll make sure we recap on that. We are again covering module 1. This is the last episode in module 1, and obviously module 1 has now changed recently to implementing identities in Azure AD. So let's do a quick breakdown of what you can expect in this episode. So we're going to look at implement and managing hybrid identities. This is the 4th part and the final part of this little mini-series. We'll look at implementing and managing Azure AD Connect Health, a very important part of Azure AD Connect. Look at some sort of troubleshooting synchronization errors that you might get. And then Dwayne is going to go do a bit of a demo on troubleshooting Azure AD Connect. So there is an element of part of the Azure AD Connect application that allows you to troubleshoot. Really useful. I've used it many times. So Dwayne will cover that. So let's look at implementing and managing Azure AD Connect Health to start with, okay? So what it does is it's going to provide in-depth health monitoring for your on-premises identity. So obviously, you know, we've got Azure AD Connect in place, but that connects 2 different infrastructures if you think about it, on-premises and cloud. So we need something to kind of monitor that bridge and monitor that connectivity. And that's where the Azure AD Connect Health comes in. So if there is anything wrong with your synchronization or there are some errors, this health part of Azure AD Connect, it's got its separate application. That's what's going to help you and notify you of any errors. Because again, any problems with your synchronization, that's going to affect access to applications. So it's very, very important. Again, it allows you to have that robust connectivity with your M365 services. Because if you are monitoring and alerting on those, you can hopefully mitigate any problems and be more proactive rather than reactive in your kind of support for your Azure AD Connect infrastructure. Admins get to look at alerts, usage analytics, and performance. So again, if say that you find that users might not be reporting it, but you notice there's a bit of lapse in performance, you can have a look into that, investigate that, and it's what Azure AD Connect Health is what facilitates that. Okay. And with Azure AD Connect being a single pane of glass, you have that same for your health and identity components. That's how Azure AD tends to be, like a single pane of glass for everything, and Azure AD Connect Health is no different. You see all your sort of health information of your identity components in a single pane of glass. So carrying on with looking at Azure AD Connect Health. Again, just want to use a bit of a diagram. So we have our cloud, we have our Azure AD Connect Health agent there, and we obviously have Azure AD. So there's an element of that in the cloud. We then have our on-premises Active Directory and our Azure AD Connect in the middle. And we then obviously have all our analytics and so that's our admin at the bottom there. He might have a few different devices, but he then dials into or connects into Azure AD where all that information is stored. So it's not stored on the Azure AD Connect server. All the alerts, the analysis, the reporting, you access that all from Azure AD, and that's something obviously Dwayne will show. It will show later on in the demo. Let's just look at some of the requirements that you need to know for Azure AD Connect Health. So you need to have a premium subscription. Okay, that's the first and foremost first things. You need, Azure AD P1 or Azure AD P2. Can't, the free version won't suffice. You do need to have a global administrator access to be able to work with Azure AD Connect Health and implement that. You need to have that health agent. So the Azure AD Connect Health agent is installed as part of your Azure AD Connect installation. So you just need to double check that that's installed correctly. If you are having some issues with it, you need to make sure TLS inspection is disabled on your firewall, because that might be causing issues on premises communicating with your Active Directory on premises communicating with the sort of health agent in Azure. So make sure you do keep an eye on that and make sure that's disabled. And as Dwayne's going to show us in the demo later, it is all through PowerShell, so it uses PowerShell to run those sort of queries and those reports. So now I just want to quickly move on to looking at some troubleshooting synchronization errors that you may get from time to time. So errors normally occur during that sync process. So when accounts or password hashes are synchronizing, that's where the errors are going to occur. Okay, when it's kind of sat idle doing nothing, tend not to be anything. You won't find any errors during that point. It's when the sync occurs. So report syncs are available in the Azure portal, as I mentioned, and again, that'll be something Dwayne may touch on in the demo. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. There's nothing on the Azure AD Connect server from a reporting perspective, so just keep that in mind. So there are three types of operations that may have errors within the Azure AD Connect. So there's the import operation, synchronize operation, and the export operation. So these are three types of operations that you'll get your errors on. Okay. So obviously with import, it's importing information in. With synchronization, it's syncing Active Directory to Azure AD, and with export, you are removing information using Azure AD Connect. Okay, so just one thing to keep in mind. So now let's look at a little bit about the different types of errors. So an error during export to Azure AD. Okay, so we have Active Directory, we have our user who's domain joined, and in that process they will do that sync to Azure AD Connect. But then what happens is during that export mechanism, they get that error, and that's when they try and do that export to Azure AD. Okay, so that's where, as you can see in the top right, you get that kind of error. So now let's look at something called data mismatch error. So this is again another type of error that you may get, and there are different types of data mismatch errors. Okay, first one is called invalid soft match. Okay, so that's during the synchronization. There's what's called an invalid soft match. So when Azure AD Connect sync engine instructs Active Directory, or Azure Active Directory, sorry, to add or update objects, Azure AD matches the incoming object using the source anchor attribute to what's called the immutable ID attribute of objects in Azure AD. This is what's called a hard match. Okay, so that's what is known as a hard match. When Azure AD does not find any object that matches that immutable ID attribute with the source anchor attribute, before provisioning a new object, it falls back to use a proxy address, and that's where is what is called is known as a soft match. So that proxy address and the user principal attributes, it uses those two to find that match. So this is the match that is called a soft match. Soft match is normally designed to match objects already present in Azure AD that are sourced in Azure AD as well. So that's just one thing to keep in mind about that invalid soft match. Another type of data mismatch error may be an object type mismatch. Okay, so when Azure AD attempts to soft match two objects, it's possible that the two objects of different object types, such as a user, group, contact, etc., have the same values for the attributes used to perform that soft match. So they might have the same UPN, or they might have the same username. As duplication of these attributes is not permitted in Azure AD, the operation can result in what's called an object type mismatch. Okay, so that's where, as it says, when you have two values with the same attribute, when it's trying to sync those into Azure AD, that's not allowed. So you'll get an object type mismatch. Okay. Let's move on to something called duplicate attributes. So again, this is another type of error, and the specific error you might get is called attribute value must be unique. So that's the error that you will see. So with this, Azure Active Directory schema does not allow two or more objects to have the same value for following attributes: proxy address or user principal name. If Azure AD Connect attempts to add a new object or update an existing object with a value for above attributes, the proxy address or the user principal name, that is already assigned to another object in Azure AD, the operation results in an attribute value must be unique. So that's kind of in the name there. It's saying that the object you're trying to sync needs to be unique. So you will get the attribute value must be unique error if there are duplicate attributes. Okay, so another thing to just keep in mind there. So the last sort of errors that I want to look at is called data validation failures. Okay, so we have a few different types here. The first is identity data validation failure. So that's a specific error you might get. So Azure Active Directory enforces various restrictions on the data itself before allowing that data to be written to the directory. These restrictions are to ensure that end users get the best possible experience while they're using the application that depends on that data. This can result in a number of different errors. Okay, one of those errors is federated domain change error. So this is a sync error when the suffix of a user's UPN or user principal name is changed from one domain to another federated domain. Okay, so another data validation failure. So when it's called large objects, so when an attribute exceeds an allowed size limit, length limit, or count limit set by Azure Active Directory, specifically the schema, the synchronization operation results in the large object or exceed allowed length error. Okay. Final sort of data validation failure I just want to touch on before I hand over to my good friend Dwayne. It's called the admin role conflict. So an existing admin role conflict will occur on a user object during a synchronization when that user object has either administrative permissions and the same UPN, user principal name, as an existing Azure AD object. Azure AD Connect is not allowed to soft match a user object from on-premises AD with a user object in Azure AD. So that has an administrative role assigned to it. Okay, so another thing key to remember around the admin roles. Okay, Dwayne, enough talking, mate. I need a rest. Can you please
talking about
over?
troubleshooting is so exciting, right?
Isn't it? Riveting.
All right. All right, so we're back in our Azure Active Directory, and we are in the Azure AD Connect section. So if you scroll down, you can find Azure AD Connect. We have our seamless single sign-on, our pass-through authentication that we've configured in the other demos as well. If I scroll down and down to the bottom, you can see Health and Analytics, and we can see we have a link here to Azure AD Connect Health. There is a synchronization that is set up for Azure AD Connect Health, or at least the heartbeat of Azure AD Connect when we start in here within the utilizing Azure AD Connect, but there's also a download that you should also get this health agent into your system. So we've got our Connect agent for sync. We've got our AD our domain service. We've got a federated service. So we're just going to do the Connect Health. We're gonna we got the directory here, so you can see Azure AD Connect. We've got that already for the sync. So if I want to download the agent here for the Azure the Active Directory domain service, I can do that as well. And just give that a second. Still, we can then. It's taking a minute here to do that, so that we can get our health service in here for our domain controller. Doesn't seem to be responding here this morning. But if we look here, we can see our sync services. Azure AD Connect Health is, you can see I have no active alerts. I'm showing healthy. As I showed earlier in another demo, when I did set up Azure AD Connect, I got an immediate alert about the synchronization heartbeat was skipped. So you might see, Azure AD Connect Health like immediately starts monitoring that heartbeat before my system, before the Azure AD Connect was actually fully installed. It's already seeing that, hey, this hasn't happened, but then I got an email shortly after that said, hey, this was resolved, and then I'm showing it as healthy. So if I was to take this server down and turn it and just shut it off, I would see this go as unhealthy. So let's first just take a look at a couple of other things that we can look at here. We've got sync errors in here. You can see the troubleshooting and error parameters that Shabaz was talking about. I don't have any of those. Another place that we can check some of that information as well is if we go into our Azure AD Connect, you can see we get our rules editor, we get the synchronization service, we have the web service connector. If we go to synchronization service here within Azure AD Connect, you can see we've got, and let me expand this a little bit. Not giving me an ability. You can see all of my imports, everything that's taken place within the environment. You can go and take a look at, and you can see this is happening on a regular basis. We installed this last week, and you can see, it's going every 5 minutes or so. We're doing a check. So we're making sure everything is all working properly within here. Let's try and kind of just initiate an error on our environment. I'm going to go into my portal. Let's go in on another browser here. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, here we'll do this. There we go. I'm going to go in. I'm going to go into my virtual machine here, and I'm going to go to my DC, and I'm going to stop my DC. So we're stopping that device.
You're a brave man, Dwayne. Brave man, stopping your domain controller.
Stopping my domain controller. Luckily, none of the users running on that are doing anything for my environment. So, but yeah, don't stop your domain controller. Rule to the wise if it is in production.
Yeah, we have to put a disclaimer in there.
Yeah, disclaimer. Yeah, don't demo on your active domain controller by stopping it.
I can just imagine people going back to work to the day after this video comes out. So, well, Shabaz and Dwayne told me to just shut down the domain controller.
Shut down the domain controller and see what happens. All right. So if I go back now to my Azure AD Connect Health, I should start seeing errors here in my sync service. Might take a little while. Might take a few minutes here, but still not seeing it, taking it a bit. You can see here, it's no longer seeing my agents or seamless single sign-on. So I know that I've got some level of a problem here. If I go in, there we go. I have to refresh. So there we go. Last sync. Yeah. So my sync was an hour ago. if I go to troubleshoot here, it gives me some common problems. We can look here at synchronization issues. We can look at those imports, all those troubleshooting issues that 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 Shabaz had mentioned. You can see here we can download our reports here and see what's going on. So if we have any issues here, we can go right in here and actually look at the recommended steps to take to check into and find out what's going on with the service as well. So so we've got that there. Might not catch the connect sync issues here, but what we're going to see is yeah, since this was just updated recently as healthy, um, we'll see here it coming, in the near future, we'll see a sync error pop up and allow us then to start diagnosing what our problem is, and should come really quick that we don't have a domain controller running, but keep in mind that it's constantly, Azure AD Connect is looking at that heartbeat. So if we're having those errors, obviously first diagnosis is look at make sure your domain controller is still up and running. Make sure that those pass-through agents, if you're using pass-through, are active within the environment, and work then back from there. It's a whole typical troubleshooting, right? Call in because your computer's not working, and they're like, well, is the power on? Is it plugged in? It's the same kind of thing when you're thinking about troubleshooting. First and foremost, make sure it's running. And then start going through and looking at the potential diagnosis of what might be taking place within your environment. So I think that does it there, Shabaz. Troubleshooting is so exciting, and trying to find out problems and chasing ghosts at times and all of those fun things.
100%.
Just a key exam tip is just understand some of those ways to find it. What you can find through Azure AD Connect Help, what you might be able to use the synchronization tool on your Azure AD Connect server. Those are kind of key things to just understand how to troubleshoot, how to get those reports.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much, Dwayne, for that insight. Troubleshooting can be very laborious at the best of times, but again, the fact that Azure AD Connect does come with tools to help you make it less laborious is great now. So that is module. Can you believe that's module 1 done? It's ridiculous.
Yes.
We've flown by. That first week has flown by. This is our 10th episode within this series at the moment. So again, thank you so much, Dwayne, for being part of this with me. Great partner in crime to have. For our viewers, just to give you a bit of an idea of the schedule for next week. Monday we will have. So again, we had 4 episodes dropping on Friday today. Monday we'll also have 4 episodes. So we'll be with module 2 around implementing an authentication access management solution. It'll be looking at multi-factor authentication, and also there's 3 parts on managing user authentication. Okay, next Wednesday, we'll have 3 videos dropping, which is around planning, implementing, and administrating conditional access. That's 3 parts on there. And we'll finish off light next Friday with managing Azure identity protection. So just a 2-parter on there. Okay, so that's next week's schedule. We hope you're going to join us. Thank you very much for your support. By all means, let us have some feedback. We want to make sure that we're helping everyone, and make sure if you're taking the exam, let us know, and let us know if you pass thanks to our content. Social links down in the description. More importantly, Dwayne's book link is in the description, so please do buy it, follow it along when we're doing the series. Also, the GitHub link to the labs for this exam as well. So again, thank you everybody. Please like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. But up until next time, we'll see you next week. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks everybody. Bye.